A very good day, everybody. Welcome to another story behind the cards video. Today we're going to have a look at the law cards because there are some laws which might need a little bit of explanation, a little bit extra information concerning them. So that's why I'm here today. First of all, welcome, of course. So the first one we're going to look at is universal suffrage. The law universal suffrage. Although it was many revolutionaries' wet dream, universal suffrage was never decreed during the French Revolution. It was written in the Constitution of June 1793, but this constitution was never implemented because at that moment in time, the French Republic was torn apart internally. The War in the Vendée and the Federalist revolts in the provinces, and also invaded by almost all of Europe. It was simply not a time for universal suffrage. It was time for unity and strong, inflexible measures. Sure, this law looks progressive and noble. Everybody now gets to vote, even if they are not present in the National Convention. And everybody can continually place influence where they want on the Paris board, even when a location is full. The problem is, do you really want this? The problem is with this law is that you will constantly lose control over both the National Convention and over the Paris Board. Since all locations can continually be altered, the amount of votes will also change each player's turn. An example. We currently have in the National Convention, the Jacobin has 3 influences, the Cordelier has 2 influences, and the Feuillants has 2 influences. Since there is a tie, so the Jacobin gets 3 votes, according if universal suffrage has been activated. So the Jacobin has 3 influence, a majority, so he gets 3 votes. But since there's a tie in both the Cordelier and the Feuillants faction, they only get 1 vote. But rest assured, this will change. So let's say, for example, in the last turn, the trial of Louis Capet has been proposed. There we go. And whoever has the majority in the National Convention, in this case, is the Jacobins. The Jacobin starts the round, and since he has the majority, he gets 3 votes. And he votes 3 times oui. So he wants Louis Capet under the guillotine. Now, it's the next one in line is the Feuillant player. So what's the Feuillant player going to do? The Feuillant uses 2 cockades. He plays Claire Lacombe. He uses the 2 cockades for 2 influence, and he adds it to the National Convention. Thanks to universal suffrage, you can just take them away. He adds 2 influence to the National Convention. He replaces 1 Cordelier with his own, and he takes away 1 Jacobin, and he replaces it with his own. Consequence, now he has the majority, so he gets to vote with 3 cubes. And he votes Noé José. I don't want Louis Capet to end up under the guillotine. Next is the Girondin player's turn. As you can see, the Girondin has no influence in the Convention Nationale, but he does get a vote. So he places 1. Well, you know, the Girondin will gain 3 points at the end of the game if Louis Capet is still alive, so he's going to vote no. So at this moment we have 3 oui and 4 no. Finally, it's up to the Cordelier player. The ultra-radical only has a single influence in the National Convention. In order for the law to pass, he needs at least 2 votes. What is more, he only has an action card with 1 cockade, so he can only place 1 influence somewhere. No problem. He takes away 1 Jacobin influence and replaces it with his own. Now the Feuillon has 4 influence, the Jacobin 1, and the Cordelier has 2, making him the second with 2 votes. He therefore adds 2 votes to the oui. With 5 votes oui at the end of the round, and 4 non, the trial of Louis Capet takes place. This means that our good friend Louis Capet will be sent to the Place de la Révolution. As you might well have noticed, with certain laws, it is also important where the players are seated during play. So that was the law of universal suffrage. While we are on topic, let's have a look at the law trial of Louis Capet. The trial of Louis Capet started on the 10th of December 1792 and ended with Louis being sent to the guillotine on the 21st of January 1793. The preliminaries to the trial, could Louis be judged, by whom, how to organize the trial and verdict, had already started in November 1792 and has caused some serious rifts amongst the delegates of the National Convention. Many were not too keen on executing the former king. They did not want to take the responsibility. The question has been asked a few times, why does the law card not carry the title, The Execution of Louis Capet? Or why is there not written Louis executed on the card itself? Well, for the simple reason, and the delegates of the National Convention knew this very well, once the former king was put on trial, there could be only one sentence: guilty. And especially after the discovery of the iron safe in the Tuileries. So the law trial of Louis Capet is automatically the execution of the former monarch. Historically, of the 718 delegates, 642 considered the king guilty of treason. Of the 721 delegates, 387 voted for death as a punishment. Therefore, once the trial of Louis Capet has been activated, he will be sent to the guillotine. But beware, radicals. The young 8-year-old Dauphin, Louis XVII, is still present in the Temple prison and can also be saved. Oh yeah, I never asked for this to be written in the rules because I thought it was completely obvious. You obviously can't deactivate the trial of Louis Capet. Once executed, he will remain executed. His headless corpse does not rise from the mass grave at the Madeleine Cemetery. That is a completely other game. And let's also have a look at, finally, at the printing of the assignats. The assignats were paper money. They were printed in April 1790 to solve the debt France was in, at least part of it. In 1793, Patriots and Traitors, they are part of the 4 available currencies. So you have, as you know, you have the gold coins, the street thugs, the printing presses, and of course, the paper money, the assignats. In November 1789, all the lands of the Catholic Church and the Crown were confiscated. They now became property of the nation. The total worth of all these confiscated lands were to be turned into assignats. These assignats could then be given to the creditors, and with them they could then either purchase the lands or obtain the face value for them from those who desired land. As time progressed, wealthy bankers and commercial middlemen and liberal aristocrats came calling for reimbursements of their lost titles and offices. As a consequence, more and more of these assignats were printed. It did not take long for this paper money to be counterfeited. As a consequence, its worth started to depreciate from 20% in 1791 to 50% by early 1792. This caused an unseen economic chaos and continually undermined the revolutionary government. So much for the economic history. It's absolutely not my forte. In any case, once the law printing of assignats has passed, all factions, and not only the royalists or the feuillants, will be able to purchase the assignat as a currency. Furthermore, by playing in assignat tokens, factions will now also be able to buy an action card from the top of the draw or discard pile. So say for example, I'm the Girondin, I now have a assignat token, I can pay it, and I can say, hey, Philippe Égalité, I'll take it. So. It is true, this law offers some interesting opportunities, but from now on, also, there's a consequence to it. Drawn angry mob cards are immediately reshuffled into the draw pile. Let's see here, the angry mobs. They're immediately reshuffled. If they're pulled, the consequences are done, and they are immediately reshuffled into the draw pile. Why? Well, as usual, the poor people in the streets will bear the brunt of these so-called economic opportunities. As a consequence, the factions will be confronted by more and more of those irritating angry mob cards. Rest assured, however, there are certain laws that are able to neutralize the angry mobs. Or, why not find ways to deactivate this law? Simple. From that moment on, the purchase of what happens if players manage to deactivate the printing of assignats? Simple. From that moment on, the purchase of the assignats will once again be limited to the royalists and the conservative feuillants. Their extra benefit of allowing players to buy a card from the top of a pile will be made redundant. And from now on, there can only be 3 more assignats in the games. However, any assignat tokens currently in the possession of any of the other factions can be kept until spent. So say for example, the printing of assignat has been deactivated, but our good friend the Girondin still has one in his possession. He can keep it. And he can use it to protect his Philippe Égalité from assassination, for instance. So they retain their original benefits. There, we'll keep it with 3 laws at this moment. I hope it was clear, and I hope you enjoyed the little bit of historical information I added to this video. I think we're going to do 3 other ones the next time. So thank you for watching for this first part of the law cards, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Take care. Vive la révolution!